In today's video, this cylinder vase will become a lush, open-top, planted moss wall paludarium full of plants and a rocky hardscape. And the price was only $6. How can I pull off a good looking scape in such a narrow vessel though? Keep watching to find out. My vision is a rock wall resembling a tall cliffside with plants climbing out of the water below. I found these rocks chipped off a huge boulder and fell in love with the thin shape and all the living details growing on them. I'm going to build the wall up from the bottom, kind of like this. I'm using liquid superglue and paper towel to attach them to the back wall of the vase. Superglue and tissue paper create an almost instant bond, making it a great method for a scape like this. First, I had to lay the glass on its side, using a kitchen towel to keep it still as I worked on it. Then it was time to start laying out the hardscape foundation. I fixed paper towel where the rock would otherwise touch the glass. This base rock started out with 2 anchor points, one in the bottom and one at the top. With that done, I started gluing it down. I instantly realized my hand didn't really fit and scaping would be a challenge. I also decided I wanted more stability and added a 3rd anchor point as well. When the glue had cured, I did a quick stand-up test before I could continue with more rock. To get this stone where I wanted it, I had to prop up the vase with another rock. This time, I added the paper towel before the final rock placement. I continued adding more glue, just to be safe. This is the largest rock, and the detail on the ridge gave me the idea to have it stick out the top like a mountain. This was one of the easier to glue in, due to the other rocks touching it. With a foundation to work from, I can now scape more freely, using the crevices already available to place the rest of the rocks. You'll notice that the rocks get smaller and smaller as I try to cover the background with more detailed pieces. Time for the big test. Will the rock stay in place as I stand the whole thing up? Nope. Well, luckily, it was the top one that fell. That's an easy fix. Some more glue and tissue and it's all good again. What do you think so far? I must admit I had a hard time seeing it at this point, but I knew to trust my vision. This white tint is residue from the chemical reaction between the paper towel and the glue. It creates a smoky fume that stains the glass. It looks very ugly, but it's easy to wipe off with some wet paper towel. On we go. It'll look good again soon. Most of it will be covered by moss in the end anyway, so I didn't bother cleaning it all off. Speaking of moss, time to lay the glass down again to prepare the next step, the substrate. This is Aquasoil, the stuff that usually looks like tiny clay balls. This time I put it through the blender to get a smoother material to work with. I need it to be wet and moldable, so I mixed in some water to make it resemble clay. Normally I wouldn't use this much water, but I knew I had to this time to make it easier to apply. At first I tried using my hands, but it was way too tricky. As you can see, it was pretty awkward getting it done. The middle part that has no rocks was the first part to be covered in. This is also the reason why I left this space open to begin with. I later found it way easier to use a paintbrush to get the substrate where I wanted it, like this. It all looks like a complete mess, but I wanted to get as much of the stuff in there as I could. Don't get me wrong, making a mess is fun, but there will be some cleaning to be done in the end. As I kept going, it started looking more and more like the cliffside I was imagining in the beginning. It's always cool to start seeing results. As I'm going to have water in this scape, I didn't put any substrate in the bottom part of the wall. The reason I did it like that is that the less the substrate touches the water, the better. To finish things off, I tried filling any empty space between the rock and the glass with substrate too. This is the finished rock wall, now ready for moss and plants. I decided to use some very dry moss bits that I had lying around from previous scapes. The fun part is that it will quickly green up as it gets wet again. I started by breaking off tiny pieces of moss. I then started placing it piece by piece to cover up all of the black goo. Placing the moss is probably the most satisfying part of any build if you ask me. What do you think? By the way, what's your favorite moss to use? Let the other scapers know in the comments. As you go, remember to be as thorough as possible with not leaving gaps that show through. As finicky as this might look, the end result is always worth it. I try varying the moss species as much as I can so that it doesn't look too patchy and man-made. Having a pair of long tweezers is a lifesaver for projects like this where it's hard to reach parts of the vessel. This is why I tried making the substrate more pasty this time. It's so much easier to really wedge the moss in properly that way. As you can see, it really sticks into the wall with ease. The more progress I make, the more exciting it's getting. It's just too much fun to see things come to life like this. I mean, it's kinda hard to imagine that this dried up moss will actually come to life, but you'll see in the end. To finish the planting of the moss, I placed some growing on the top of the wall to get a sense that the growth continues beyond the confines of the glass. This actually makes a really big difference, and it's worth keeping in mind. Now, last time I snubbed you of the big video happening, so here's the comeback of the halftime spray down. You're welcome. In tight builds like these, some wiping is necessary after spraying the plants, all for your viewing ability, of course. I also made sure to clean up any debris that fell to the bottom for a cleaner water section. Speaking of water section, time to add some sand to the bottom. This is some fine aquarium sand from my local aquarium store. I poured in a good but not too large amount of sand. This is the only aquatic substrate I'll use today. I proceeded to smooth it out with a paintbrush to get an even layer. To cover up the visible glass in the water area, I placed some more rocks. This time I didn't use any glue. This adds another layer to the scape as well, giving it a more three-dimensional look. This, in turn, also makes the cliff look more stable. These final touches on the rock wall really made things come together if you ask me. What do you think? Time to add some more greenery, and I chose to take 3 cuttings of creeping fig and make them the stars of the scape. I plant them straight into the water and let them rest on the moss wall until they grow in on their own. Using the bottom rocks to contain the cuttings was an added bonus. Seeing some proper plants in the scape really elevates it, I think. I'm so excited. As the final cutting was placed in, it was time to fill it up with water. As the water filled up, I had a feeling that it was a bit too empty at the bottom, which obviously means it needs some plants down there too. The creeping fig kept falling off the background all the time, so I had to reattach them so many times. Stay still now, okay? For the water section, I chose hydrocotyle, as it can grow out of the water and up the cliff, which will give the Paludarium an even better look over time. I stuck them into the sand, but in my experience, they can grow free floating too. At this point, the rock started falling as well. It's never easy, is it? I added plenty of it for a fuller look right from the beginning, but I could do with just one cutting and it would grow in over time as well. Lastly, I took some salvinia and duckweed from y'all's favorite build, linked on screen right now. Just a spoonful will be plenty. For even more naturalistic textures, I added some roots I kept from a project that involved a lot of digging. You might see more of that in the future. Can you guess what it is? I believe they're from a birch tree, but I'm not completely sure. What I do know is that they really add additional points of interest that draws the eye even more towards Escape. Isn't this just such a cool addition? What do you use to add interest to your own builds? Swapping ideas is always fun. Time for a shoutout. The reveal shots you're about to see are made possible by a good friend of mine. His name is Max, and he sent me a macro lens for my camera as a completely random gift. Thanks, Max. This will make my videos even better in the future, as it's a true upgrade from my previous gear. Max has an amazing wildlife photography channel, which I will link in the description of this video. Please help me thank him by subscribing there too. And if you enjoy my videos, consider subscribing to my channel too. That's it for this one, folks. Have a great one, and don't miss my next video.